20,000.
True.
All right. So I am an investor in Joe. We'll let our panel introduce themselves, but that is my joke that I'm actually an investor in Human Ventures, which is a company co-founded by Joe, and I'm an involuntary investor in Phil's life because I have lost a lot of money to him in poker. Welcome to the future of human connections, because we needed a title, something without AI in it, because you guys have heard everything about AI nonstop today. My name is Rob Goldberg. I run a company called Forge, which is a family advisory for prominent families, helping with what we call relational health, so crisis management and crisis prevention. So nothing to do with AI.
Which is why you don't take my calls sometimes.
I'm preventing my own crises.
Yeah, you text me like, Phil, I had a crisis. I didn't take your call for that reason, right?
That is right. So we're going to let our panel.
Rob, I'm just trying to promote you a little bit.
We're going to let our panel introduce themselves. Thank you, Phil. Right. Phil Hellmuth needs no introduction. 17-time winner of the World Series of Poker, advisor in 27 companies, and I'll let him say a little bit more about himself.
Let's see. Anything interesting? I don't know if there's much interesting. I think, Joe, I'm gonna go to you early.
Oh boy. Okay.
You have to do your bit right away. So I love this. Joe was talking backstage, and Joe's just a killer. For you people that know him, that don't know him, amazing. Ran like Fox Television and
The
blah, blah,
advertising
blah, blah,
side
blah.
of the business, but yes. Yep.
Yeah, and you, I love this. Can I tease you?
Sure.
So you guys bought Tribeca Film Festival.
We did. Well.
But hold on, I'm going to deliver the line for you. James Murdoch and Joe, but they bought by percentage of net worth.
Yeah, so you can know how much he owns versus how much I own, just to be very clear on that. Now,
Can you do the data versus
well,
attention?
So this was like in the AI conversation of it all. Everyone talks about advertising. Everyone thinks AI is new. You know, it's been AI forever. The Google feed, the YouTube recommended for you, the Facebook news feed. Like AI has been serving you ads and helping you make decisions. AI has been mating humans with Tinder. Like so, but the thing is, the funny part is like we've swung too far to data, whereas actually human connection and attention actually matters more. Because I could absolutely know everything in the world about you, but if I don't have your attention, nothing I can do with it. Now, we don't know each other, right? So now I know nothing about you, but I could tell you the world's best tequila is called Comos. It's made by a master sommelier, and it is the best tequila in the world. Now, I may or may not have sold you, and everybody else in this room, on the world's best tequila, but I can do that with attention with zero data. But that lesson for everybody else is like people forget what it is to connect with people, and that's actually why we come to things like this.
Shameless promotion, by the way.
Shameless.
And that's Charles Leclerc, is that your name?
Yeah.
Now, you at least have to send him some bottles.
Yes, okay.
You just used them right, like, for no reason.
There we go. Jim, you want to introduce yourself?
Rob, hey, by the way, I've moderated Phil before.
Hey, good luck.
So I feel your pain, man.
Not gonna happen.
I'm glad somebody does.
I completely understand.
You tried to moderate me in Korea.
I could not moderate you.
You did a good job, I thought.
Okay,
I got some good clips from
Yeah. No, I'm with a global premier startup incubator and VC company called SparkLabs Group. We have about 650 portfolio companies. And I think we'll get to this, but the human interaction is very important, because I think the most important thing has been building trust with the founders throughout their life journey. And so we're really with them from the beginning to the end. And so now these companies we incubated 12 years ago, we're helping them to go public, and they're just right behind us. They trust us 100%.
So Jim, let me add this. So Jim is the CEO of a SPAC. It's on the stock market. This is not investment advice. It's on the NASDAQ right now, SPKL. I'm a senior partner and partner in the next one, but we're talking about one of our SPAC targets is Neuron. Can you tell us just a quick thing about Neuron?
No, probably not.
No.
Why don't we talk about? Why don't we not talk about the company?
Is the SEC in the room?
They might be.
Camera, man.
What?
I'm just kidding, Joe. I mean,
But I do want to know, Phil, to your point. No, I want to, if you don't mind, Rob.
No?
No, you never know about human connections, and I do think the world has moved away, especially young people, from face-to-face connections. But Phil, I've actually known Phil for about 40 years. So I'm very close friends with his family. His brother was my best man. So I knew Phil before he was Phil Hellmuth. But the connection that we built, and who would ever think that we would be here doing this today, but just keeping in touch, caring about each other over time, and then just having conversations and the trust that we had, and immediately could work together.
And I think I do think that's the interesting part, and like I will say to the point of human ventures, like the alpha is going to come in being good at being human, right? Like what was it for the last decade? The refrain to people who like had a liberal arts major or something else, and they were worried about jobs in the economy was, oh, you better learn to code, right? And now coding might become the easy part. Like there's companies at Human that would have been B and C stage. They would have had to have 30 engineers by this point that are doing it with one engineer, right? And so, but okay, then where does alpha come from? And alpha comes from the ability to build relationships and do business. And like, I mean, this is where it does tie into poker. I mean, how many times have you sit around a poker table and like do business, hear about business? How many people have seen Molly's game? Yeah. Molly was there last night at the poker game, so now everyone who played poker last night could say they played in a Molly's game.
Well said, well said.
But no, human becomes the alpha, and I do find that to be very interesting. The next decade, like what does that look like for investment?
So what do you think it looks like for investment for people? What the evolution from where it is today? Anyone can take this.
I mean, I don't think it's a ton different in terms of picking founders because most companies don't end up what they start at. We invest very, very, very early, so we're betting on the person. Like that's where Human Ventures. We were shocked that Human Ventures wasn't taken when we took the name, but I guess the capital wasn't really looking for people at the time. So I don't think a ton changes. I think what you look for changes. Like you're looking for people that can adapt, that are going to be able to build relationships, that will build businesses. I mean, look at how fast things are changing with DeepSeek and AI right now. Like people are like running out at the markets. So it doesn't change what we do. It just changes what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Bill, you've made a career out of reading people. That's sort of the basis of this conversation. What do you think? What do you look for when you look for the companies you advise? What do you look for in people in general, people you hang out with, all of the above?
Because of the poker group, because of Chamath, my best friend, and some of you know him, some of you don't, and the All In podcast, that was born from our poker game. Now it's a top 10 podcast in the world, where we have a diversity of views in the political world, a diversity of views in the way we think about business. And for me, being a part of that group started leading to opportunities to advise companies, so people would come to me. And then once I helped one advisor, they just started coming to me, Rob. And now I find myself advising 27 companies. 18 of them are not really active, but I'll always take their calls to help. And so for me, after around number 10, or maybe earlier, you understood that investing in these early stage companies is all about the founder. If the idea is stupid, well then the founder's probably not smart anyway. But if they bring me a decent idea, I did one where I didn't love the idea, okay? And EQL, and then we were bought by Fastbreak AI. And now I'm talking to Jonathan Stewart about Fastbreak AI. Fastbreak AI, maybe it's a company we can SPAC in the future. I think we can say that. We can say that?
I can say that it's a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, Fastbreak AI, like name a league. NFL, NBA, like they do the scheduling, which is a great use case for AI for me, for all these leagues. And Jonathan Stewart is an incredible founder, and now I'm talking to him about helping him out. It's a $113 million company.
So
To me, to come back, Rob, it's all about, do I think? And so I have this process, meet the founder, have a couple-hour talk. I always say, we'll talk again next week. Have a couple-hour talk, maybe an hour-and-a-half talk, and then by week 3, they know if they want me, which I've been lucky, 90% of them want me involved. And then I know whether or not, just ask myself one question, can he do it? That's it.
That's the process?
And if the answer is yes, then I'll invest $100,000. They'll give me 2 points, 3 points, depending on the deal. Later stage companies, less. And so for me, it's can that person get it done, and female founders too, with nutcase milk. I'm just going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Brag, brag, brag. I'm always bragging. Nutcase milk. Joelle Winan came to me early. I'd only met her like 6, 7 times. Her husband, Daniel Winan, is number 3 at Shopify. This crowd knows how big Shopify is. Why did you come to me? She said, Phil, I just thought you were going to help me. Great. I wanted to get involved right away. Nutcase milk is a cashew milk. And I said, I have a vision. We're going to hire Ninja. Some people know Ninja, some don't, with the blue hair. One of the biggest gamers in the world. Fast forward to 5 months later, she's like, I don't know Ninja. And but her husband sure did. And fast forward to 5 months later, Ninja has a big piece of the company, and we're selling out everywhere on Nutcase Milk. So I feel like, yes, I earned my equity.
There we go.
No,
All right, that's enough
Joe-
bragging.
Phil
Joe-
is definitionally a value-add investor. Like we actually don't. I'm not even talking my own book. Like I get calls from Phil, and like all of us, like we'll be halfway through a conversation. I'm like, wait a second, we're talking about a company you just invested in, aren't we? And like he's like value-add media side, value-add influence side, like connecting with investors. So and it all starts around the poker table.
That's true.
It started with this group, with this group of friends, Rob, of which you were, a core member of the group.
I've been part of it for a while. Joe, what, and Jim, both of you, how do you guys look at your process when you look at people and your human connection, and
Yeah.
how do you evaluate companies you look at?
Well, so like we said, like we're so early that we are betting on the people, so it's similar. But I think there's a fun, easy rubric to think about very early stage investing. Why now? Why you? Right? It's like it's very simple. Why now? Meaning every idea has been had for all time. Like there are no such thing as novel ideas. Anyone who just wants you to sign an NDA before they show you their idea obviously does not know how to build a company, and we're not investing in deep science like this early. So why now is like for Uber phones, 3G was a thing, apps were a thing, because everyone had the idea to call a car to your phone. My mom had that idea. She didn't create Uber. So that's the why now. Now the why you. Now imagine 1 million other people are having the same idea right now. So right now the answer why now is, oh, AI is making it easier. Oh, infrastructure is making it. So now the why you is, okay, well, if everyone else has the same idea, why are you the person that's going to pull it off? And like, what is that superpower, right? Without Travis and Garrett doing what they were doing, like you can argue all sorts of different ways about methods, but taxi medallions were not getting broken, right, without that. And so that's the why you. So if you look at those two vectors in investing, and then because the world's going to change, and are they going to adapt to it? And like, again, back to what's changing right now, like people have to understand what they're building in. So we have our theses. We do know, like we believe where the world is going in terms of AI is going to help people, but what's going to be missing, and then how do we back founders that understand that?
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, no, I actually think, at least in the time I've been in this industry, I think the industries and the technology changes, nothing new under the sun, but they're basically the same thing. But honestly, the way that I've assessed founders really hasn't changed. And it's about the person. And if I go to the other side, once you've decided on a company to invest in, and I think this is something, shameless promotion aside, let me put a plug in for.
Wait, I invested in your airline. Is that what you're promoting?
No, different one. No.
I'm an investor. Promote it.
SparkLabs Group. So we are a startup incubator. Our primary focus is on entrepreneurs. But I think where we try to differentiate ourselves is that we really care about the success of the founder. We spend time with them. So I think nothing replaces whatever the technology is and the trends. You have to spend time with the people. And the other thing is, we were just talking about this, life is too short to spend with a bunch of assholes, obviously, right? So you don't want to spend time with people you just don't get along with. But I think the founders understand if you really care about them, if you really spend the time with them, if they know that you have their backs. And so I would just say, like our group, there's some footage, SparkLabs group of founders talking about us, and many of them cry. And they say like, hey, SparkLabs, this is a family to us. They've been with us through everything. So I think that human connection, that's the most important thing in business.
Can I say something, Rob?
Sure.
Two things. One, Jim started AeroK Airline in Korea. How many
Did you
planes
invest
do we
in that
have?
one?
I invested.
Okay.
How many planes do we have?
I don't know, 7 maybe?
Okay, we're working our way up. And then I just want to say this about Jim, because he took the SPAC model. My best friend is Chamath. Chamath did a lot of SPACs. Chamath was, you remember that big article, SPAC King, Wall Street Journal? And Chamath's my bestie. And I like the way that Jim thinks of SPACs. So a SPAC target,
So I'm not a
say
SPAC
this.
guy. I'm
Our SPAC target is Neuron. So what is Jim doing? He's out there helping them raise $300 million. He's spending a lot of time with them, and I kind of like, the direction. I like what we're doing. I like the way you're thinking about it, and so we're hoping that I call it SPAC 4.0. He calls it founder-led. What is it?
Company-led IPO.
Company-led IPO. Anyway, I'm very excited and proud to be with Jim, who's like, I brought him a company, and I'm like, I'm about to get 1%. And he's like, oh, no, don't take the 1%. He's like, let us help them for free, and then we'll give you money on the back end. Well, of course, that was the fast break AI founder. He liked that idea.
He's going to get you into more
I
of
said,
our
can I
companies."
close my freaking deal first, and then we can help them? But I like the way you're thinking and reinventing SPACs, and it comes right to the point of being human, being connected, spending time with the CEO, Albert Liu, raising money for them. I know you're going to their offices soon in Taiwan, and so I can say all that, but he can't.
So I actually think, in the goal of creating human connection, and so we have a lot of folks sitting here and it's post lunch and trying to keep everybody awake.
I think we're good.
Oh, they're awake.
They are awake.
They're confused, but they're awake.
That's true.
That
People
is
have
true.
questions. People have questions
This is
for
how you get put off
anybody.
a hand in poker, by the way. Like you flood the zone with information. All of a sudden, you don't remember what cards you had. That's right. Till's going all in.
So
Hey, we've got another game tonight.
We have another game tonight. But in making a connection for people and wanting to ask questions of Phil, of anybody on any of the panelists, but specifically across investing, but also across poker, across life, how those things meld together. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask?
Charles, you have a fucking question?
Do you remember what the world's best tequila is?
You're going to get some bottles of tequila.
It's a very high
That's the
stakes
problem with
game.
attention. It doesn't stick.
Do you play-
Advertising's a tough business.
Do you play high stakes poker? Okay, then
Perfect.
you
You're
don't want
in.
to be there.
No, what is
Right, yeah. Send
Are
your
you good at
wire.
this game?
Does anybody have any questions?
So
Back there?
I brought a lot of like billionaires and celebrities into my poker game, and I always coach them up because
What was the topic again? That we're talking about?
he
Well,
asked
it says poker.
he
I'm
asked
joking.
if he wanted to like if we went into the poker game, Jim. Let me go with it.
We've
for
got
a
a
minute.
question on the far side.
I have
but
a
after
question
this.
over here, Phil.
We got a couple. Hold on.
Good.
Okay, so I know it's sad. Nate Silver's a friend of mine, and I only
usually
read the
precedes
parts,
something.
I only read the parts that I was in.
That wasn't what I was going to predict. I like that.
So how accurate were the parts that you were in? How about that?
Accurate, and I think he did a good job. I mean, when you're an egomaniac, allegedly like me, you want him to say you're the best in the world, all this stuff. But I've heard many of
Only
my
allegedly?
friends, many of our friends, read the book, liked it, thought it was very accurate, and Nate has some great insights about what the poker world looks like and coming into it. And by the way, he's a really good player. He played in Shamas' game once. He did really well.
All right.
There.
And another question? Yep.
Poker, well, the way you compound it is like, I have this thing, right, where I care too much, right? So that's why my nickname's Poker Brett. And you've seen me lose it. And the losing it, to speak to that for a second, that is more like 1 minute a day, but then the ESPN cameras are there to capture that. So because I care so much, it forces you to dig down and look at every hand that you played. And for years, I didn't lose 3 times in a row. They say that's impossible. It's not. I never lost 3 times in a row because the first time, after the first session, I'm like, oh, you screwed this up. The second session, you did this wrong. And the third session, I just come in fresh and really ready to play and really on top of my game and play like as perfect as you can play. And so to me, it's a classic tale of you get beat up and you get knocked down and you keep standing up, but each time you're stronger and you grow. And my wife has been terrific for me, forcing me to go into couples therapy, threatening to leave me. I was crying for a week.
See, human connection.
Yes.
Important.
Right, and then what happens though is you're like, oh my God. She's like, I remember the exact words. She said, I married a diamond in the rough. You're still a diamond in the rough. And I'm like, fuck, she's right. So
Still
luckily she didn't leave me. We spent 3 hours a week in therapy, and I learned a lot about myself, which then translated to poker.
She
So
play poker
all
with
of
you?
all of this getting beat up, whether it's by your wife or your partner or your spouse, whoever that is, or by the poker world, it all helps make you stronger.
By the way, I
Good
just
point.
wanted to say his wife is a psychiatrist.
Yes. She's very smart. She's a very nice person.
Don't
a very
mention
smart
university. She gets mad at me. She's like, you said that I'm at so-and-so university.
Person. Other questions? I think there was another one back there. I can't see through the lights. No?
Front row
Anyone?
here.
Oh, front row here. We'll go back to you in a second.
I'm sorry,
Finding founders.
Fund Founders, yeah. Yeah. And I think it's the first two that you said. I think education and background is less important, but I think it really is the EQ, and probably more so than the idea and genius. I think there are a lot of smart guys out there, but I think you need both. But if I were to err on one side or the other, it would be the leadership and the EQ. And if they can get people aligned behind them, whether it's investors or employees. But yeah.
I think one way to look at that too is like the EQ allows for storytelling. Every great founder needs to be a great storyteller. If you don't think you're in sales, you're wrong. Like you're either in sales to new employees, you're in sales to raise more capital, you're in sales to literally be in sales. Like great founders are good at storytelling one way or another, even if they're technical storytellers. We also look for founders that have like a reciprocity mindset, that like they come from abundance. Actually, I think Derek Thompson's speaking right now. He has a book called Abundance coming out. Like we're going into this world where if you think everything's scarcity, you don't want to help other people, and you never know. Like the PayPal mafia came up, and they weren't all better at everything, but they kept helping each other. And like that, the mafia is a mafia for a reason. So looking for people that understand that they're going to need help at some point, and they should be helping people along the way, is a really great signal in a founder.
And part of my process is when I say, can he do it? I hate to say this, but I think it's super important that they're working 80 hours a week. You know, if you're working 40 hours a week, it's
Hard to be a founder.
probably
Yeah.
It's very
probably a bad sign.
Yeah, but that's kind of, I mean, I would agree, but I've never met a founder that wasn't, working 80, 100 hours a week.
If they're not, then
Yeah,
I
we
just don't.
invested.
I'm like, wow, what are you doing? You're here, you're there, and
Playing poker.
if
Poker can be
poker's-
work in the right setting.
Yeah, but that's a bad thing, unfortunately. You're spending a lot of time at the poker table. You asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing in the private game once, and I lost 140,000. Big number at the time for me, and I remember, might sound funny, I spent like 2 hours walking around Safeway at 3 in the morning, and couldn't sleep, and I'm like, fuck this, I'm going to the gym. And it's 3 in the morning, because I was so upset. And probably not the best way to deal with it, because we pay at the end of the year. I think it's a process, and you get better. In Shamas game, I would get too high when I won, and I'd get too low when I lost. And now, and I'd share with my sons or my wife how I did, and now I don't really ever. My wife will ask, and I'm like, okay, we had a good night. So you kind of learn to not live in the daily highs and lows.
Which that sounds like a founder, like founders think one day that they're going to take over the world, and the next day that their company's over, and like there's going to be nothing. And then you learn, because like I was a founder, like I've done this, and then you realize later you feel like it's going like this, but really it's kind of going like this. And as long as you're up and to the right, you're in a good spot.
Yep. Other questions? Anyone?
Front row over
Front
here.
row.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you repeat
So-
the question? Sorry, Rob.
Well, so the question was how do you address and how do you help support human connection, and how do you teach it to your kids, to your family members, so that we all continue to get better at it as opposed to getting worse at it, which I think cell phones have clearly had. I mean, if anyone's read The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, he talks about this, obviously. And I think that you bring up a good point. I think it does start at home. I think one of the things that Forge does in working with families, 80 to 90% of your parenting is done by the time the kids are 9. And it's getting younger because of the exposure to cell phones. Because what happens then at age 9 and 10 is pop culture and your peers take over, but also the pop culture now has a outsized help in the fact that they have connectivity to the internet. So I would say, in the way we work with families, is reminding them simply to spend time with your kids, one-on-one, one-on-two, and really interact with them in a way that reinforces that, because that's a learned behavior that they can then take with them. By the time they get to college, I don't say it's too late, but it's close to that. So.
This is interesting though, because
and we have to wrap up in a second, Phil. Just to
okay. But I love this because we're talking about human alpha, and she's asking she's college professor over here about human alpha.
No, I think
which I think that's I've never heard anybody say human alpha before. Well done on you. Give us a little bit more in the 20 seconds.
And this ties to poker. Since we're out of time, we'll tie it all back with like poker and human connection. Like sitting around a table for 4 hours, like having social interactions with someone and paying attention, because you can't forget what people folded. You can't forget strengthening that muscle of understanding that you live in an attention economy and everything's fighting over it, is something that you could look for and you can train. And I know we're out of time, so.
We are out of time. So thank you guys for showing up and listening and participating.
Human alpha!
And listening to Phil.